Everything I knew about the term single malt came from learning about Scotch. My understanding of Irish whiskey had a lot to do with picklebacks and shots in bars.
As we trace back the history of modern single malt, it really leads us back to here, at the top of Ireland, to Bushmills.
I like Bushmills single malt because, honestly, it surprised the hell out of me on this trip. The chance to come out and learn about it and actually see the countryside and be able to put a face to the country is something that's completely invaluable. Being able to walk around and smell the fermentation or see the environment that it comes from teaches you about the people who are making a spirit, and that's essentially distillation of who they are.
Bushmills has quietly, for hundreds of years, been making single malt. As far as we can tell, this is truly the home of single malt distillation.
There's not a better backdrop for a whiskey distillery. It's green and rolling hills and rocky cliffs. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful.
Bushmills is a magical whiskey. We're 100% malted barley, single malt distillery.
A single distillery made with 100% malted barley. Our tradition is smoothness, yet a richness of character.
I remember the first time that I had single malt Irish whiskey, and it really blew me away because the whiskey tasted like nothing else I'd ever had. And it was full of all types of interesting flavors that you don't often find in other types of whiskey.
I knew nothing about Irish single malt, so seeing a whole new world open up in terms of flavor, in terms of aroma, in terms of the process, in terms of what I understand about cocktails and what can go into them, that's pretty cool.
We made the original single malt. In fact, we've been making single malt that long, we just call it whiskey.
We have years and years of history, but the reason we have that is because we are the very best at what we do. The love and the pride of Bushmills speaks for itself.
I personally didn't know that they were given their decree to distill in 1608, making them the longest decree in the islands. Like, they have a bottle from the late 1800s that they can test and taste against everything they're doing now. They know that the recipe hasn't changed since at least then.
I had the privilege of tasting a bottle from 1882, and the taste and quality of that whiskey remains today. Yeah, all those years ago, we're still making the same style, we're still making the same quality, we're still giving the same taste.
To get that chance to drink a single malt with that kind of history and heritage, and that's what makes Bushmills not only different from other distilleries in Ireland and Scotland, but really something that's truly special and rare.
Tasting whiskey from the barrel in the warehouse with the blender. I mean,
No complaints about this, right?
Nope.
There's 400 years of knowledge being handed down from master distiller to master distiller. Trial and effort and different nuances and different cask types and different distillation practices that really brought to us where we are today with what is really Bushmills. There is a great science to it, especially in the distillation.
We rely on the water. The water comes from a tributary of the River Bush called St. Colum's Rill, and it's the River Bush that provides all the crystal clear, wonderful water. It's the same water that flows across the Giant's Causeway. We use the finest malted barley, and we use beautiful copper pot stills, and we triple distill, and that creates a truly spectacular spirit.
Crazy to me that all 10 of those stills are being run from this one control room. I'm watching like 3 stills back here and 1 over there. That's an amazing amount of control.
100 years ago, that would have been a lot more labor intensive to do all of this, right? I mean,
Yeah, so the same principles of apply. We'd have had the same stills, we would have had more people running. I like to look around here, and we have this great contrast. We have the great traditional way of making whiskey still, but we have the modern control. Yeah. But fundamentally, it's all about the taste, and the taste hasn't changed all those years. This is what Bushmills does, day in, day out, week in, week out, century after century. That's what we're good at.
Colin produces this beautiful, crystal clear spirit, and that spirit has all the richness and maltiness that is Bushmills.
Once we get into maturation, it really turns more into an art.
And you are the first female master blender in Bushmills history?
In Bushmills history, and indeed the history of Irish whiskey.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
My role is to select the casks, to mature it in, and to turn it into whiskey.
This is where Helen lives, this is Helen's domain, so this is where we look to start to blend and to actually use different types of barrels. We mix them together to form our single malts or to form our blended whiskies.
When Helen wants a barrel from up there, it has to come from up there.
And it's always up there.
There's a very special relationship with the casks. They're living, breathing, beautiful things. The pride that is in the distillery is that it doesn't really matter how much effort it takes. It has to be that perfect one. We're never in any hurry. We will wait till it's perfect. We have a whiskey for every palate here.
What's the whiskey for your palate?
10-year-old.
You have all of these drinkers, and I'm sorry to say bartenders too, who are so militant about how you can and how you certainly cannot drink whiskey.
You'll always have purists that are like, how dare you? Like, I'm sorry, an 18-year-old single malt makes a really good old-fashioned.
I personally think that people should drink whiskey the way they want to drink whiskey.
Cheers to that.
Somewhere along the line, the conversation flipped from these are the rules to no, drink it however you want, and that's finally starting to get across, and that's, I think, just allowing people to explore more than they used to.
Without Bushmills, this idea of making single malt would have disappeared. It was Bushmills that kept single malt Irish whiskey alive for decades. That's why Bushmills is the largest producer of Irish single malt whiskey today, and why it's so well regarded for producing single malt whiskey.
Bushmills feels like it has been here forever. I think we are coming to a point where we're learning to cherish and honor things that have been done a certain way for a very long time, things that have their roots in decades and centuries ago.
From the moment you walk through the gates, you see the whitewashed buildings. You do fall in love with it.
All around you is a reminder of the craft that goes into making good whiskey.
Everything we do is for people to enjoy the finest whiskey in Ireland.
I think one of the great things about whiskey is there's always something new to learn. That's what keeps me coming back to the glass, and the opportunity to be here at Bushmills and to learn about something that in the back of my head I thought I knew, but turned into something completely unexpected is honestly the reason I keep doing what I do. It's an opportunity to talk with people, to learn, and to ultimately share. And to me, that's what whiskey is.